The doorbell rang at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, interrupting Marcus Chen's nightly ritual of reheating leftover pasta while his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, sprawled across the living room floor doing homework. He wasn't expecting anyone. In the 3 years since his wife's death, unexpected visitors had become as rare as his own laughter. Through the peephole, he saw a woman in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked like she'd stepped out of a corporate boardroom and gotten lost on the way back to her Mercedes. This was Riverside, a working-class neighborhood where people wore their factory uniforms with pride and considered Olive Garden fine dining. Women who looked like her didn't just wander down these cracked sidewalks by accident. Marcus opened the door halfway, Emma peeking around his legs with curious eyes. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice carrying the exhaustion of a man who worked 2 jobs and still struggled to keep the lights on. The woman's professional composure faltered for just a moment. Her eyes, a striking hazel that caught the porch light, scanned his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Then she smiled, and it transformed her entire appearance from intimidating to warm. "Marcus Chen," she asked softly. "Yeah, do I know you?" "No, but I know you. My name is Victoria Hastings. I'm the CEO of Hastings Technologies." She paused, watching his face for recognition. When none came, she continued, "I've come to claim what I owed you 20 years ago." Marcus blinked. 20 years ago, he'd been a broke college student working 3 part-time jobs, barely scraping by. He'd never met anyone named Victoria Hastings, and he certainly hadn't loaned money to anyone who could afford that watch she was wearing. "I think you've got the wrong person," he said, starting to close the door. "Wait." Victoria held up her hand. December 14, 2005. Boston Metro Station. Around 11 p.m. Does that ring a bell? Marcus froze. That date was burned into his memory for entirely different reasons. It was the night everything had gone wrong, the night he'd almost given up entirely. He'd just failed his final exams, lost his scholarship, and received an eviction notice all in the same day. He'd gone to the metro station with a one-way ticket out of Boston, ready to leave his dreams behind and return to his hometown in defeat. "I remember that night," he said slowly. "But I don't remember you." "You wouldn't," Victoria said. "I looked very different then. I was 19, homeless, and sitting on that platform contemplating whether I should throw myself in front of the next train." Emma gasped, and Marcus instinctively pulled her closer. Victoria's eyes softened as she looked at the little girl. "I'm sorry. That's heavy for young ears. But it's the truth. I was at my lowest point, convinced I had nothing to live for. And then this young man sat down next to me on that bench." Marcus's breath caught. He did remember now. A girl, painfully thin, with matted hair and hollow eyes, shivering in a threadbare jacket despite the freezing December cold. "You gave me your coat," Victoria continued, her voice trembling slightly. "You bought me coffee and a sandwich from the station cafe. You sat with me for 3 hours and told me about quantum physics and your dreams of becoming an engineer. You made the universe seem big and full of possibilities again. And when I finally admitted I had nowhere to go, you gave me $300. You said it was everything you had, your rent money, and you told me to use it to get somewhere safe." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He'd never told anyone about that night, not even his late wife. After he'd given away his rent money, he'd had to sleep in his car for 2 weeks until his next paycheck came through. He'd eventually had to drop out of college anyway, unable to afford tuition without his scholarship. His dreams of becoming an engineer had died that winter. "I tried to find you," Victoria said. "For years, I searched. But I only knew your first name and that you were studying at Boston University. By the time I had the resources to conduct a proper search, it was like you'd disappeared." "I did," Marcus admitted. "I dropped out, moved back home to Pennsylvania. Life just took different turns. I know. I finally found you 6 months ago. I've been preparing for this moment ever since." Victoria reached into her elegant handbag and pulled out a folder. "That $300 you gave me. I used it to get to a women's shelter. They helped me get my GED. I worked 3 jobs, just like you did, and eventually saved enough for community college. I started a tech company in my garage 10 years ago. Last year, we went public. The company is now valued at $2.3 billion. Marcus's knees felt weak. Emma tugged on his shirt, her eyes wide with confusion and wonder. "I've come to repay my debt," Victoria said, opening the folder. "But with interest. The going rate I calculated, considering what you sacrificed and what I gained, what I owed you came to approximately $47 million. The world seemed to tilt. Marcus gripped the doorframe for support. "I'm sorry, what? I'm not here to just hand you a check, though that's part of it," Victoria said quickly. "I've done my research, Marcus. You're a master electrician now, working 2 jobs to support your daughter after your wife passed away. You're brilliant at what you do. Your supervisors rave about you. You solve problems no one else can figure out. You should have been an engineer, and you would have been if you hadn't given everything away that night to save a stranger's life." She pulled papers from the folder. "I've established a trust fund for Emma's education. Full ride to any university she chooses, plus graduate school if she wants it. I've paid off your mortgage, your car, and every medical bill from your wife's illness. And I'm offering you a position at Hastings Technologies. We need someone to head our new sustainable energy division. You'd be creating solutions to real problems, designing systems that could change the world. The job comes with a salary of $350,000 annually, full benefits, and stock options." Marcus couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down his face, and he didn't even try to stop them. "But more than that," Victoria said, her own eyes glistening, "I wanted to tell you that every life I've improved through my company, every job I've created, every innovation we've developed, it all traces back to that night. You saved me, Marcus. You saw a throwaway person and treated them like they mattered. You gave up your own future so a stranger might have one. I've spent 20 years trying to be worthy of that sacrifice." Emma wrapped her arms around her father's waist as he sobbed. Victoria stepped forward, her professional demeanor finally cracking completely. "You taught me that night that humanity isn't about what we keep for ourselves, but what we're willing to give away. I've built an empire, Marcus, but none of it means anything compared to the chance to finally say thank you." Marcus pulled himself together enough to speak. "I didn't do it for thanks. You just looked so lost. I couldn't leave you there." "I know," Victoria said softly. "That's exactly why you deserve this. The world breaks most people who are that kind. It's time the world gave something back." As Marcus invited Victoria inside, Emma dancing around them with questions, he thought about that frozen night 20 years ago. He'd walked away from that metro station with nothing, convinced he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. Instead, he planted a seed that had grown into something miraculous, proving that sometimes the greatest investments we make aren't in our own futures, but in someone else's hope.